Hey guys, welcome back. Claudia here. I hope you're all doing well. Today we are finally doing our first garden tour of the season. It's been a minute. We've added a lot of color to our front yard and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But we're kind of like at the peak right now. Some of our plants are looking a little iffy, which I do want to show you and talk about my recommendations on some of them, but everything looks so lush and beautiful and full, and I'm so excited to show you what we have going on in the front right now. So we actually just got back from a trip to Brazil, which was so much fun. We had the best time seeing my family down there. And before we left, we were planting like two crazy people. And I feel like we always do this before we go on a big trip. We always come up with these bright ideas to do a bunch of projects around the house and around the garden. I don't know if you're the same, but we got everything kind of buttoned up before we left because we knew when we'd come back, the heat would really start picking up and we wanted everything in the ground before we left. And it turned out that I had a little bit over what I anticipated as far as cut flowers, so I needed somewhere to put them. So I decided to plant them in the landscape, which there's going to be a lot of color, which is really not my thing in the landscape. I really kind of like muted tones, light purples, light peaches, whites. But because I had so many starts, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna put them all in the ground and it's gonna look a little crazy, but it's gonna work and it's gonna be beautiful. So let me show you this bed first and then we'll make around to the other beds around the front garden. So the first three trees that we have here that you're going to see is going to be the Shishigashira maple. This is one of my favorite maples. It's also known as a lion's head maple, and this is one of the first trees we planted in this space, which we've talked about that before in a previous garden tour video. And then we also planted this purple oh my gosh, royal purple smoke tree over here. And I think we had it on the other side last time we showed you, but we got that planted. The weeping atlas looks beautiful, and it's so funny because Sergey and I actually lifted this up before we left, and I know it's a little bit hard to tell, but if you get lower you can see that it is at a little bit of incline now, which I do love when we have things elevated like this because it creates more interest, so it's not just a flat look all of the time. So that was actually Sergey's idea, and I think I have a picture, I'll throw it up. But yeah, we lifted it up before we left and we've just been keeping it watered and it looks great. You'll see around here we have a lot of really colorful cut flowers. I didn't anticipate having to use them this way. I wanted to add things like zinnias and cosmos, but we went ahead and added a bunch of stuff. So you're going to see a lot of color when we redo the siding of the house, which we do have. Hopefully we'll get that done by the end of the year. I know they're going to come through and a lot of plants are probably going to get wrecked. So in my mind and Sergey's mind was, if we put annuals here, we won't really care if they get damaged or not, because next year we will have more perennials and shrubs, more of the permanent look to this garden. So I'm not a huge bright color girl when it comes to the landscape. So this was definitely like, it's either going to look crazy or it's going to be really pretty. And so far it's actually looking really beautiful. So back here we have Mahogany Splendor. I think they get about 3 to 5 feet tall and wide. I did plant a lot of our plants pretty close, which is okay. I really wanted that tight feel and I'll just maintain them. It resembles a maple. So if you're somebody who has a hard time growing maples in your zone, but annuals thrive, this might be a really great idea for your landscape. We have King Coral Celosia here. These are really taking their sweet time, but they're very cute. And they resemble a brain to me. I love it so much. We planted some really pretty vanilla marigolds over here. And again, these are, I would say about 90% of all of the annuals were started indoors this year by us. Back there we have some really pretty zinnias and they're doing good, and next to them is just celosia and again some more zinnias. When I thought about planting bright colors, I really wanted to plant them kind of towards the back. If we swing over here, probably one of my favorite perennials of all time are going to be these ornamental alliums, and you can see, look at the bees, look at that, all of those bees on that one plant. Oh look, and I think these are leafcutter. Yeah, those are leafcutter bees. We're such a bee family here and we love bees so much. So ornamental alliums, this is definitely a a perennial that I will be adding more of once we start restructuring this area next year. But for now, this is like just a grouping of 3 over here. And oh my gosh, I just, every year without like, they don't skip a beat. The bees love this plant so much. Right next to them, we have, I think it's Dark Night or Black Night pincushion flower. One of my favorite flowers to use in arrangements. Again, the bees love it. I think the seeds came from Johnny Seeds. Most of our seeds come from Johnny Seeds and Floret. This whole area is doing really good. We have some anemones that are still blooming, which is wild. I added some red. Red ones to the landscape. We just had extra from the cut flower garden, so I planted them here, but I will pull these up, lift them up, and store them for the winter time. Now, let's talk about this daisy over here. So I believe these are Shasta daisies. I think they're called marshmallow. I can't recall, but I'll throw up some video of when it was in full bloom, and I specifically left them like this because I wanted to show you or kind of explain to you what an impact this has in this area. It's a really like big block of flowers over here, but my problem is once I cut them down, this area is going to look drastically different, and they are going to start flushing in new sets of flowers, but they never come back as strong as the first flush. So what I've learned when I'm doing big blocks of perennials like this that take a long time to flush the second time around, I want to plant them towards the back so they're not as impactful when we cut them down in the front. Does that make sense? We planted this burgundy jewel vine maple, which we are in love with. It's so beautiful. I love the trunk detail on this one. You can see it kind of curves. I've mentioned this before. Whenever we shop for trees, which is one of our favorite things to do, is we look not just at the tree that we're looking to buy, but we also pay attention to the branching and the trunk, because I think that adds so much interest into your landscape or your garden. And again, look at the whole thing, not just like the leaves and the structure and the actual tree, but try to pick ones that have really beautiful and interesting beautiful and interesting shape to it, if that makes sense. And then right next to that is our, well, we thought it was a dwarf variety of a weeping cedar, but it's getting kind of big. But I don't think it should get bigger than 30 feet. I think that's what the plant tag says. It should have been 15 to 20 feet, but I'm not good with height. Like, what do you think that is?
It's all the espoma you're feeding it.
It's all the espoma that we are feeding. Everything is just growing wild here. Right back there, if you look from this angle, you can see the Chinese dogwood, and it had the most beautiful little white flowers. It came and it went really quickly, but we planted both of these trees right before our trip to Brazil. So right here in front of the maple, we just have a swoop of more cut flowers. The cone flowers are really going for it this year. That is a perennial that was there before. Behind it, we have more pincushion flower. We have some white snapdragons that they already flushed their first bloom, but you can see they're kind of flopping over. Those are the new blooms that came in. We have some cosmos in the back, some more colorful celosia, straw flowers, and I'm so excited for these to bloom. And if we swing back here, we have Cerinthe, which is probably one of my new favorite fillers. I haven't used it yet, and I've never grown it, but they're doing really beautiful. So let's check out our little island over here that we planted last year. We have on the left, we have a Oregon green Austrian pine. In the middle, we have the Japanese emperor maple or emperor Japanese maple. And then right over here is the Louis golden white pine, which is just so pretty. And it has these really cool cones over here, and it's just fluffy and beautiful. And he is just thriving and growing so nicely. I love this pine so much. If you pause and take a look, like I'd love for this to be a quiz, but what do you think is missing in this area? So pause, think about it. As a gardener, what do you see as lacking? If you said color, you'd be correct. I think what happened is when I was planning this out, I added a really beautiful plants that have interest all year round. So we have the Daphne over here, that's an evergreen, and it blooms late winter, early spring, but right now it's just kind of green, right? And then right next here we have this, oh my gosh, it's a, I think, gold leprechaun columbine, which has beautiful purple flowers, but right now it just looks like it's a variegated plant, which is pretty. And then we have 3 little lime hydrangeas, which are just now starting to put on their color. They look green right now, but they will be a creamy white, and then they'll kind of turn into like a blushy pink once they start aging. And right here is a Midnight Masquerade Pennitum, and I just cut it down, but it has really beautiful purple flowers. But the problem is, once I've cut this down, it really eliminated all of the color that we had. So we do need to come up with a solution. I think adding annuals over here is going to be the best thing. So I'm thinking just popping in a couple of annuals here and there. And I think that's going to just complete this bed really nicely. We do have bulbs that are planted underneath, and those looked really pretty, but I do want to come in and plant more this fall. But yeah, that's one of the things that I immediately, once I cut this down, I thought, well, now this just looks really green, which is beautiful, but it doesn't look complete to me. Like, it just looks like it's missing something. So this maple is a good example of a beautiful structure and branching. You can see there's lots of curves, and there's a lot of movement in this maple. So when you're shopping for trees, really take your time and look through. Don't just buy a maple or whatever tree it is that you're going for. Really take the time and look through. That's what we do. That's why we like to go pick out our trees ourselves, because I think it's almost like a romantic process, to be honest, because you really think about it. You have this idea in your head of what it's going to look like in your garden, and it's like, I don't know how to explain it, but I just have such a love for trees. And yeah, so this is just beautiful, perfect branching. And even the way we oriented, we wanted to try to make sure that it looked good from all angles. There is one angle Sergey doesn't like, because if you look at it from our driveway, he thinks it looks a little, what do you say, narrow or? Narrow. But if you look at it from the street or from behind, you can really see it bushy and pretty. It looks fuller, I guess, is kind of what he likes. But I don't, we don't sit in our driveway and look at it. It's only when we pull in, but yeah. So as you recall, this Oriental spruce was one that we had on the opposite side, but we moved it over here, and it's thriving. I think it's at full size at this point, but it looks really beautiful. The Japanese maple is probably the grounding tree in this whole area over here. It does need a trim. It's looking a little bit furry. I don't know how we want to describe it, but it's looking a little hairy. It's looking a little bit hairy. And that's probably the only tree that we left on this property when we bought the house. Over here, oh my gosh, the most beautiful swoop of August Sunset Rudbeckias, probably one of my favorite new flowering perennials. It is so beautiful. I haven't done anything to it all season long, and they look fabulous. I will come in and deadhead some of the older spent blooms, but they have been like this the entire time. And look at how beautiful they look. I think this is going to be so gorgeous, especially in the fall time. Right here we have a Coral Charm peony that's done for the season. Again, I still left some anemones over here, the white. I will probably come in here and plant, I don't know, something white though. I do want to keep the white going on over here because I think it kind of creates a cooler look with all of this color going on in this space. Right here we also have some Nicotiana in the back, and just look at how, let me get up here, look at how pretty those flowers are. So sweet. And then we have more pincushion flower. We have some Zinderella peach zinnias, which are really just coming into their own. I have a little bit more of some ranunculus that are just finishing off, but they looked so sweet over here, and they actually just went for a really long time this year. But Sergey would like to remove the hostas and move them. I love the hostas, but if we do end up removing them, what I want to do is come in and plant a bunch of oh my gosh, what are we?
Just to be fair, I never said I want to fully remove them.
Okay.
They just need to be organized and consistent.
Okay.
Not
Wow.
different color, different size, different shape.
But I think that's what adds interest. Okay, you guys vote. Let me know. Do you think it looks nice with different varieties, or do you think it look prettier with one variety and just do a mass planting?
Doesn't have to be one variety, but consistent balance of variety on each side of the tree.
Well, okay. Well, you and we think differently. You guys let me know. You guys vote below.
I think it's right.
Are you guys Team Sergey or Team Claudia on this one?
Team right or team wrong?
The team right, okay? So if we do move the hostas, then I want to plant a bunch of hellebores underneath. I saw that at the garden show this year and it looked chef's kiss, so beautiful. Would love to do that here. So if we swing around, let's go towards the front. But if you step back, actually, this is a really pretty view. And I do have plants for other projects and a bunch of heucheras on the side. But yeah, this view is really, really pretty. Love it. All right. And I love my friend's house. It's just like the perfect backdrop to my garden. So this is the front view. Don't pay attention to the storage back there. We're just kind of cramped for storage inside, so we've had to store some stuff out here. But this is also a really pretty view. The Japanese maple looks really beautiful from this angle. We do prune it twice a year, once in the winter time, and that's usually like a heavy pruning, and then midsummer we do a light pruning. It's not ideal to prune trees in the summertime. In fact, most people will not do it, but we do come in and just snip off some of these long growths, and even if you get underneath it, it looks like cousin it down there. So it's just one of those things that it bothers me. I want to be able to see through the maple, not at just the maple, if that makes sense. So every year we're taking more and more out of it and just really focusing on the shape and the branching. It's a beautiful tree. Again, we have, the pineapple lily. Actually, let's come in on that because I think that's so pretty. We have delphinium over here that's just done blooming, but we'll get a second round. And then the pineapple lilies, I'll let you go in. I think those are just such a fun flower. Look at that. Isn't that cool? They get bigger and bigger. So they'll get bigger, and then they have like these little yellow flowers. I just think it's like an interesting flower to have in the landscape, and it's a bulb, so you can plant that earlier in the season. And you can see that there's still some space between some of the flowers and the grass, so I could actually get away with adding some annuals down here as well, but I know how much Sergey would love edging around those, so I might not. But next year I do want to come in and just plant a border of like, I don't even know, maybe some super bells or something, but I think that's going to look really pretty. Over here we have a little firelight tidbit hydrangea. We also have one on the other side. This is the one that Proven Winners sent out to us probably a year ago or 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago, and they're just looking really beautiful. We keep them really compact and nice. We have some really pretty bright light cosmos in the back. Let me just grab that flower for you to see. Look at how pretty that is. We saw these, or I don't know if this was them exactly, I'm pretty sure it was, these in Brazil, and they were just so pretty. I love it so much. So much color over here. Right here we have a blue Swiss stone pine, and this one doesn't get much bigger than this. It's a pretty compact. If you're looking for an evergreen in a compact space, definitely look into this one over here to see if it grows in your zone. This is an Acer pallidum. Just a really beautiful maple tree. If we swing around over here, so that's actually our window to our studio and office back there. We had a cypress over here, a topiary cypress, which we didn't love. We just weren't in love with it anymore, so we dug it up, gave it away. Again, here's the other hydrangea on this side. We have some pretty marigolds that we started from seeds, some verbena, which you guys, how come nobody ever told me about verbena? Look at this. They're such sweet flowers. I love that so much. This area does look like a hot mess, kind of a jungle situation, but we know this is just temporary. You can see the dahlias are a little out of control over there. They're like over 5 feet tall. I'm 5'4", 5'5", and some of them are taller than me, so definitely not ideal for the landscape. I would definitely go with something more compact. The celosia is doing beautiful over here, just really pretty color. Again, just a lot of cut flowers in this space, and really the bees are just loving it so much. We have some colorful zinnias, which I would, again, never think to add to a landscape, but it actually looks really, really pretty. If you're looking for an early blooming shrub, these guys are really great. The GMs, they have these really pretty spikes of flower. It was one of the earliest things blooming in our garden, and it just looked amazing. And in this space, we had right next to this beautiful rock, we had nasturtium, which was just kind of growing over the rock. I'll see if I have a picture, but I ripped it out 2 days ago because I thought, like, gosh, it's looking a little like it's struggling a little bit. And I flipped over the leaves, and it was just full of aphids. And I just was like, absolutely not. I don't even have time for this right now. It was just like too far gone. So I pulled it up, sprayed everything down with Rosar X just to make sure it didn't transfer to anything, but a little opportunity for something over there. So I'll probably add, I don't know, maybe I do have like a couple of things left that I started from seed, which obviously this place or this space is already just full, but why not, right? I love it when I wake up and I get to work. I work from home some days, and it's just a really beautiful view. One other thing I wanted to call out is the Nicotiana right under the maple. I think that looks so wispy. I love a good wispy ethereal moment in the garden, and I think these are doing that. So they're just like these really pretty, I forget the variety, I think it's Sauvignon. I'll take a look and put it up on the screen, but really beautiful flower. I think if you can add Gara, is also a really beautiful perennial you can add if you're looking for that wispy moment. I will be planting a lot of Gara in our side garden in the future. So that's what this area is looking like. We take a step all the way back. Our plan is still to do an edge of boxwood. We will be, when we change out the fence, we will be putting panels all the way up, so towards the front of the garden, and plant some smaller trees right over here, just so we're kind of having a little bit more privacy. Our neighbors put in this driveway last year, and I think it'll just be really pretty just to kind of create a privacy screen with panels and with trees and shrubs. So we're going to be taking away more of the grass, which I think will actually be nice for our water bill, because our water bill is astronomical right now. I don't know if yours is, but holy moly, it's crazy. And we have been hand watering this grass because we don't have a sprinkler system up here, and we do have drip everywhere else. When we re-landscape the grass, we're going to bring in new grass. We will be adding sprinklers, and then I think we'll also make it that they overhead water everything instead of having drip. I think with the addition of the boxwood hedge over here, it's just going to create a private moment in your garden, so you're not just open. Again, our neighborhood is just lovely and the people are lovely, but it would be nice just to kind of have that like clear path, like this is my garden, you know what I mean. I do want to show you the back, but let's go ahead and break this up into 2 videos because I know it's going to be long, and I know a lot of you don't have time to sit around and watch me talking about my garden for hours. So let's go ahead and break this up into 2 videos. So this will be part 1, and then we will be filming part 2 shortly after this. Thank you so much for watching today's video and hanging out with us in the garden today. I'll see you guys next time.